Hello there and welcome to my YouTube channel where we talk all things trading, finances and money in general. Now it's quite late tonight yet again, but I still have to make one YouTube video, and today I had a lot of thoughts about esoteric things, so get comfortable and let's talk about free will. Now, what is free will? Us as humans, and actually, in the end, I'll tie it in to trading. So it's gonna be an interesting view to our humanity in general, us as humans in our entire existence on the planet Earth. So our ability to actually choose for ourselves and whether it's actually possible or whether we actually possess such an ability, and how all of that actually ties in into trading. I actually did a poll on Instagram asking how many people believe that humans have free will. And I was thinking that at least 80 to 90% of people will say that humans, of course, have free will. But I was surprised to find out that about 40% of my Instagram followers actually believe that humans do not have free will. And now I was astonished by that number, but then I started thinking, why would they actually believe that humans have no free will? And quite a few of you, perhaps a lot of my Instagram followers are watching me on YouTube as well, so perhaps a few of you guys actually sent me messages explaining why you think that humans have no free will. And mostly those reasons were things like, people don't have money, people are socially disadvantaged, they had poor childhood, no education, and the most popular, of course, no money, which I've already mentioned. They are important. So these reasons, for sure, they do serve as something that would limit our ability to choose. However, in my personal opinion, this is a little bit simplistic. So this is just on the surface. And these things, I would just classify them as our environment. So our actual situation, financial situation, family situation, health situation, of course, is a very important, a crucial factor when it comes to identifying whether you possess free will or not. But I'm going, with my way of thinking, I'm going a little bit deeper than those things on the surface. So let me dive into my thinking here for a moment. So when we are thinking about the free choice and the free will in the way that I'm thinking about it is simplistic choice. So for example, you imagine yourself that you want to buy yourself a pair of new sneakers, and you know the model that you really want, and you know the color that you really want. And you walk into the store and you find yourself exactly 3 identical pairs of sneakers, but they're just different colors. Let's say red, white, and black. You really want the red ones. So which of the 3 you're gonna buy? You're obviously gonna buy the ones that you want. So that, on one hand, this seems like a free choice. So you have free will to buy either of 3 pairs. However, you're gonna choose, so therefore logically you will exercise your free will to purchase the ones that you want. And this is the level of thinking which I've called being on the surface, so the simplistic way of thinking. Now let me explain my way of thinking. So sure, you're selecting the ones that you want, but I am questioning the mere fact of your want. So why do you actually want those sneakers? Why don't you want the other color? So what lies behind the purpose of your need, your desire for a certain color and a certain model? So why exactly white ones? Or why exactly the red ones? Or why exactly the black ones? Well, I want them. So, and therefore I have free will to choose the ones that I want. But nobody, well, rarely somebody is questioning the reasoning behind why would you want something. as opposed to something else. And this is the way that I'm thinking about it. So let's just break apart the things that actually affect our decision making, therefore our choices that we make on the daily basis. So number one, obviously, and those are the environmental things, your current situation. So if you cannot afford, the sneakers that you're looking at and really want them, then of course this is something that is limiting your choice. But that is something that, again, we are putting into the category of your environment and your current situation. The same goes for your health, your family. So maybe you have some dependents, or maybe you're a dependent yourself. So then, of course, your demographics. Where do you live? What kind of shops do you have to buy those sneakers that you really want? Etc., etc., etc. So your current environment is number one category that affects your decision making. Number two category, in my personal opinion, and I think that a lot of people will agree with me, that is yourself. So that is your brain, your thinking, and that is, we can just call it in general genetics, because that is basically the smallest thing there is that defines us, and that is our genes. So you have your mother, you have your father, and they did one thing together, and then there is you. So there are some genes from your father, some genes from your mother, and by combining some chemical reactions, we got that gene for you, and therefore you were born, and that's how you are for the rest of your life. So basically, when you want those pair of sneakers, sure, you're evaluating your environment, your brain is evaluating it, so your financial situation, your money situation, your family situation, I don't know, all other things, and your mood and the colors that you like in general, blah blah. But then there are your genes. So your genetics actually define a lot more than you actually think. So when I'm going out in the evening, I'm going out not for the reason, well, I want to go out because, for example, I'm an outgoing person, so it's my personality. Some people prefer to stay at home. And genetics play a huge role in this decision making. If you are, you like extreme sports, you like adrenaline, you'll be more prone to extreme activities and maybe some street racing or whatever else. So you're into adrenaline stuff. So those are your genetics. You were born this way. And then, of course, your financial situation, maybe you cannot afford to go skydiving every day, therefore you won't. But you want to, and why do you want to? Those are your genetics. And your genetics actually decide what you want. And therefore it cannot really be free will. So the decisions, in my personal opinion, are pre-made by our genetics and by our environment, and by far not by us. All the decisions have been already pre-made. But let me dive into this a little bit deeper. Let's take me as an example. I grew up in quite a simple, let's just call it simple, a really simple family. I did not have a father. It's quite a tragic story. So my mother raised me on her own. Despite being a very young mother, she just barely made ends meet. Therefore, my childhood wasn't exactly a lot about money or anything of the sorts. And then, just by the miracle of time and all the situations that I've been through in life, I've ended up in the United States of America at quite a young age, where basically all my beginning of my adulthood and all the things that I've learned about money all happened in the United States, in New York actually. And so when I came to New York, I was one person. So I was somebody who was raised by my mother. I was, while I was still a kid basically. But then New York changed me. But so that was that external factor. And I was met by a huge number of decisions that I had to make on a daily basis. So it was money was involved. I was into different kinds of businesses and quite a few stressful situations, which I don't really like discussing anymore, remembering them even. And quite a few solutions that I had to look for at a very young age that the child shouldn't even be looking for at that age, etc. So there were quite a few environmental things that affected my personality and developed me into the person that I am today. However, at the same time, those decisions that I was making for one thing rather than for the other were made out of, as we've spoke about before, out of my genetics as well as my environment. So these decisions that I've been making, there's always basically 2 or 3 choices in life when it comes to the bigger things, and you always have to select one. And you are always selecting one, you're turning right, then you're met by another choice, you're selecting the third one, you're turning left. And life is always like this, so you're basically floating through life, taking turns and hoping for the best, especially having no experience and no real guidance in life. And that is how our choices, our decision making and the choices that we make on a daily basis lead us to somewhere. So my decision making and the choices that I've been making my entire life, which half of them were probably the worst choices that a kid can make, but they nevertheless they led me to where I am today, a successful trader and investor in the market, and quite a successful trading coach as well, and a respected person in the community of wealthy investors in the Baltic states, etc., etc. So the list goes on. But how did I end up here? I ended up here by taking the correct turns at the correct moments, speaking to the correct people in the correct way, and making even more correct decisions out of certain situations, some of which were impulsive, therefore more genetic than environmental, and etc. But why am I telling you all of this? Why is this such a great example? My life is a great example because I've made a lot of choices, a lot of decisions, a lot of situations that I faced, just a shit ton. I don't know, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of decisions that were just happening day in and day out. And somehow at some point, as you might know, I've met my mentor, which at this point is already about 8 years ago, and who offered me to learn how to trade. And I've built quite I was building a life in the United States, and I've spent countless years on that. And what he was offering was to actually go to Switzerland and live with him and learn from him. And so the price that I had to pay, I didn't have to pay him any money, but the price that I had to pay for it was with everything that I was basically working on in the States. I had to forget this life and start over. So, and this kind of cost for some people is higher than any amount of money. So I've, of course, without just thinking about it, I've taken the chance. So I was quite an impulsive one, but that's my character, that's my genetics, plus my environment. So I've taken that turn without even thinking twice. And then the hundreds, thousands of other decisions, and I've ended up here sitting in front of the camera talking to quite a already large audience, and to having a bunch of students, quite a few dollars in my pocket, and being just in general quite a happy and positive human being, even though too much hardworking, I suppose. So the point being is that if you take me as a person without telling me, now this is important, if you've lost communication with me there for a moment from all of my talking, now it's time to come back. So take me at my age right now and take me back, I don't know, 20 years when I was around 10 years of age. And don't tell me that this actually happened for a social experiment. So, and watch me make all the same choices and do my decision making is gonna, I guarantee that my decision making is gonna be spot on. If it's gonna be different, it's gonna be different by, I don't know, 0.1%. In certain situations, some small things I might decide differently, those that I didn't even care much about at the moment when I did them. So that's the point, and I hope that you're already understanding what I'm talking about. So basically, my path, it was already predetermined by who I am genetically, as well as my environment. So the way my mother raised me and all the ethical principles, the law-abiding or non-abiding principles, etc., etc. So I was pretty much a computer, a really complex biological computer that could have been actually quite predictable if you had all the data, which is quite hard to collect, and probably there aren't such computers yet who can predict that can predict something at this level. However, actually off topic, I think that those computers will be invented in the coming 100 years for sure. So yeah, and taking all of that, this is actually what decided my life's path. So this is exactly myself being me, my genetics, I should say, actually made the choices for me. So the decisions were made by the environment and my genetics, and that's pretty much it. So once again, just think about it. If you take me, we rewind the time back for about 20 years back and actually watch the film, give me that free will yet again, and give me the opportunity to live my life once again from the age of 10 years old, 5 years old, 1 year old, does not matter. It's all gonna be precisely the same. Nothing is gonna change. I'm gonna still end up in 20 years or so approximately, I'll still end up sitting in this couch talking to my phone right now, well, meaning my YouTube channel, and to all of you guys, sitting in the same very apartment with the plus or minus with the same amount of money in my pocket, with the same car in the underground parking lot. It's gonna be, and all basically 99% the same experiences that I've been through in life. And when you actually realize something like this, then you start actually doubting a little bit the point of life, because in this case, if that were true, then we are basically living in a simulation, because we are biological robots that are basically on an autopilot. So our decision making is automatic, even though we think that it's not automatic and that we have the control. It's actually not true. If you want white sneakers, what has to happen, that you walk into the store, you see the white sneakers that you really want to buy, but you buy the black ones just to have a laugh at it. I mean, why would you do it? And again, this would be really the free will and the free choice, but it's non-existent, it's predetermined. And the universe probably, or maybe actually there does exist some kind of a computer already that is capable to take a gene, a piece of genetics or whatever it's called, take the gene and stretch it out and actually analyze it down to the T, and by combining this data from the gene, combining it with the environmental effects, such as what's his family like, what's his education, who was his father, mother, and everything else around you completely, all of the information that is possible to get about you, put it all into one mixer to actually, into some kind of an algorithm. And I'm just, talking right now because I don't know if anything like this exists. And then I'm pretty sure that it would be able to spit out any kind of prediction about you. At the very least, this kind of an algorithm would be able to predict who you're gonna become in life, most likely which profession you're gonna choose, and what kind of sports you're gonna be into. And the more information there is, the more detailed things it will be able to predict. Maybe almost down to small details, such as which kind of sneakers you're gonna walk out of the store with on Tuesday afternoon. I don't know, but that's a little bit maybe too crazy. But I think that if we think about it from the perspective of math, numbers, and algorithms, then I'm pretty sure that it's possible. And so this brings me to the topic of trading. So what does this actually have to do with trading? So as we all know, and if you've been watching me for quite a while, you probably already know that any successful trading is a very flexible way of trading. So no simple structures and patterns, or no stupid shit like that, or some trading indicators, or this simple mathematical one like MACD, RSI, stochastic, VWAP, and etc. And nothing like chat rooms or any of that crap. You'll probably already know that if you want to be able to make consistent profits, then you have to be able to see the market for what it is, use tools like the key market levels, the second level market data, and actually see the heart of the market, as I always call it, and actually be able to spot the places in the market where that switch from supply into demand, and those where the scales are tipping, and where we can expect those micro or macro impulses, and how the market is actually, all the patterns that are happening, and etc. So all of that is obviously discretionary trading. So you must be able to look at the market and again make choices, and you have to have a really good and developed trading decision making. The system of decision making in trading is imperative, and this is what actually decides your success rate. And that is something that, if you think about it, then a lot is gonna be dependent on your genetics. Are you actually meant for trading? So is your brain actually going to comprehend the proper ways of trading? Is it gonna be, it's not about IQ. As for myself, for example, I don't know my precise IQ, but I can assure you that it's nowhere near Einstein's IQ. I mean, it's probably somewhere around average. I'm not a super smart guy. I am careful, I am persistent, I am patient, but I am by no means a genius. So that's something that you also could, off topic a little bit. So yeah, and this brings me the question, and raises the question of how genetics actually affect your potential success rate in trading. Because as I look at a lot of my students, it is quite interesting how every student has the same information. So the learning program is the same for everybody. But some of the students, and I can see that by the trading community, some of the students understand everything right away, and they actually are capable of looking at the market in the way that I'm looking at the market, and therefore make, more or less similar decisions. But some students are struggling even with the basic concepts. So this is quite an interesting one, and I guess that those who are meant to be traders, and as for me, for example, I've never thought that I'll be a trader, but my life led me to trading, and therefore I guess I can say that I was meant to become a trader, or later a coach and a long-term investor, and blah blah, and my path is just starting. I have many plans in life, so this is just somewhere in the middle. And but I was meant to be a trader, so I guess some people, their paths might cross with trading for them to actually get something out of trading, but not become traders. So this is quite an interesting video on the take of the free will and the free choice, and I guess the whole point of it being that if you ever become a successful trader with my help, or with helps of somebody else, or maybe you're crazy enough to spend 10 years self-educating, which is, fine, I guess, for everybody does it in their own way. But if you're gonna become a successful trader, that know that it was already predetermined, and you were already meant to be a successful trader, and the life was just taking you through all the choices, and your body, your genetics, as well as your environment were just steering you in the correct direction, and you were just sitting there inside your head just watching the movie, basically. So it's everything else was predetermined, and it was not your choice to become a successful trader. So that, I guess, on this note, we can end this video. And food for thought, please leave a comment. Do you agree with everything that I've said in this video, or you disagree? I'm always happy to read everyone's comments. Please like the video if you like this kind of esoteric and philosophical take on trading. I guess it's quite rare on YouTube and just in general on life. And let me know if you're interested in more of my thoughts on life in general, the meaning of life, for example. That's also a big one. I've struggled with that one for quite a while. Why are we here? Who are we? Do aliens exist, and stuff like that? And these are the things that pique my interest. Money has been my major interest for quite a while, but at some point, quite a few years ago already, actually, when I've gotten to a certain level, which isn't too crazy of a level, but me being me and sort of a humble guy, relatively humble guy, I at some point got to the point where I can actually afford 99% of the things that I've ever wanted, and that's why my mind kind of let go of money. And that's why I started thinking and letting those philosophical thoughts travel further and take me on those really pleasant, interesting, yet sometimes exciting and sometimes even scary thought processes. So yeah, let me know, and as always, there's going to be a link to my webinar down in the description, so if you haven't watched it, please do. Please like the video, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next videos. Cheers!